welcome to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the sports show that talks about current events and other topics relatable to sports fans. I am your host today, Alfonso Caldero, flying solo, so we'll get right into it. Um, Sadly, the top story of today is the postponement of a lot of sports going on around the nation. The NBA suspended the three games that they had scheduled last night, and they've postponed the three scheduled games that they had for today. Looks like they will either resume either on Friday or on the weekend. Still a little bit up in the air there. Major League Baseball postponed three games yesterday. Not exactly sure what the update is as for today. The NHL announced today that they postponed their two Stanley Cup playoff games for today. And the NFL had at least 7 teams. It looked like maybe it was around 10 or 12 teams that suspended their training camps for today. This is all stemming from a police shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. He was shot 7 times by police on Sunday with 3 of his children in the car and surrounded by a bunch of bystanders. Unfortunately, this has taken the sports world by storm because of the issues that happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. These are situations that in the past they would just get swept under the rug, and now with the internet being what it is, and with the TMZ world and videos being shot instantly on cell phones, these are situations that are not just going away anymore, and there's not cover-ups that can take place that can hide these situations. I understand that the players, what they're doing is basically just putting this at the forefront and making this issue that's just not going to stand anymore. Ironically, this was yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of when Colin Kaepernick first took his knee before an NFL football game with the San Francisco 49ers, and back then he was basically everybody just threw apples at him, and like he was looked at as a marked man. But when you look at it 4 years from now, he was actually kind of like a visionary with what he was trying to accomplish. And now that there's more people on board, now this situation is gotten to the point where it can't be hidden anymore. And I personally, I've said it on record, I think that sports should just be sports, and they should just, sports is basically the great escape for all the highs and lows that go on in people's lives, and where they could just focus on something else and have a good time, entertainment purposes, those kind of things like that. Unfortunately, this is a situation where it's gotten to the point that it needs to be addressed, and the players are taking stands with it. The organizations are standing behind them, and it's a movement that hopefully will lead to more promising situations in the future. Why I didn't like sports taking a certain stance, either yay or nay, is because there's always going to be one side of the coin that ends up, not feeling appreciated, or like the other side just feels neglected. Just basically, you're picking a side that makes it not able to like take care of everybody. When you don't take a stand and kind of just if sports was just sports, then they'd be able to just move along with the proceedings and just do what they do. But unfortunately, in this situation, in this day and age, there has to be action taken. Unfortunately, there's a few bad apples in certain police departments that are speaking for the whole police force, and the good cops are being held hostage, and the like people are suffering, and like there's also situation like this has been going on for decades, and it's a situation where it just needs to stop. So I support the what the sports world is doing, and moving forward. Uh, Hopefully there'll be better days, and we won't have to. There'll be better decision making on all sides, and there won't be these kind of issues. So the NHL again, there's a few diversely cultured NHL hockey players that have formed a NHL Diversity Alliance, and they are the ones who initially called for the NHL to take action, and they ended up following suit with all the other sports that were that had their postponements. And again, like these all these games that are getting postponed, they're getting postponed. Like they're not getting canceled. So the games are eventually going to happen. What it's doing is just bringing the current event issue to light, and it's not just Jacob Blake itself. It's every other time that this has happened for decades. And unfortunately, every time this situation happens, it just becomes an avalanche and it just keeps going and keeps going. But I proudly sit here today, and I feel like there's the change is coming. It's never been at the forefront as much as it's been now, and right now it's getting to the point where it can't be ignored anymore. So in the coming years, there should be a lot better results coming from these kinds of situations, and hopefully the situations won't happen. All right. So, what the NBA has done throughout its playoffs is they have Black Lives Matter printed on the courts, and they've been wearing messages on their back, which I found very interesting. It's kind of like on where the name would be on the back. It has different messages like Black Lives Matter and different team specific ones that relate to the ending of racism and such like that. And then they have the numbers in the middle where it would normally be, and then on the bottom is where the players' last names would be. And the coaches are wearing pins also to signify the how important it is. All right, so we move on to the NFL. The NFL it was the Colts, the Jets, the Titans, the Cardinals, the Bears, the Packers, the the Washington football team, the Broncos, and the Jaguars all suspended training camps today. A lot of them were said to take this day to how they can give positive impact into this situation, and how their organizations are going to be moving forward to help assist in getting the word out and trying to make situations such as what happened on Sunday in Wisconsin not happen, or make it the point that it is an issue, so that we can all move forward and try to eliminate the issue. All right, so we will get to the actual sports stuff, because this is not a news show; it's a sports show. So we're gonna dive into the sports and where they are today. For the NHL, the first seeded Flyers and the number 6 seeded New York Islanders are playing in the Stanley Cup quarterfinal. No, the semi-conference round, the semifinals of the conference round. Basically, there's 8 teams left in the NHL playoffs. So the first seeded Flyers and the number 6 seeded Islanders are tied at 1 in their series, and that's in the Eastern Conference. And also in the Eastern Conference, the Tampa Bay Lightning are the 2nd seed, and they're playing the 3rd seeded Boston Bruins, and Tampa is up 2-1 in that series. And in the Western Conference, the Vegas Golden Knights are playing the Vancouver Canucks. The Golden Knights are the 1st seed, and the Vancouver Canucks are the 5th seed in the playoffs. And their series is also tied at 1. And The other Western Conference series is the Colorado Avalanche, the second seed, are playing the third seeded Dallas Stars, and the Dallas Stars are up 2-1 in that series. As it stands right now, the New York Rangers are still the only team that have been swept in the playoffs. And ironically, there was no Game 7s in the first round. All the series ended in 6 games or fewer. And there was only one, I guess, Game 7 like um, deciding game, which was Game 5 between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets. That went to 5 games, and Columbus ended up winning. That's the only decisive one. So all these other series are they're still close. They're still exciting. Most of them. There's not really many blowouts that happen game to game, but the series themselves are moving along at a pretty quick pace. And that does it for the NHL. So, and then the NBA action we have.
Before you leave the NHL, just to make sure people know, it hasn't been a seventh game, I guess, since 1939. They went St. Louis Blues in Boston. They went on Game 7 for the Stanley Cup. So that's been a long time for a game never to go over seven games, for a series.
I can't really hear you.
I said that's for it not to go to 7 games since 1939. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a very long time, and that just tells you that these teams do not want to take it to 7 games. Because how they say the longer you play, the more chances you got to lose. So I guess they are smart and said, you know what, I'm going to kill this real quick. Yeah,
so, I don't. Part of the reason could be there's really no home ice advantage. Like when teams are traveling, when they're going into hostile road environments, and they got to deal with the fans, they got to deal with the energy and things like that. Those are all things that a lot of the teams aren't facing right now, and the fact that they're just going toe to toe and playing. There is some talk that some teams weren't as engaged as other teams and different things like that. Whatever the case is, at the end of the day, the games were to be played, and the best teams in those games won. That's the ones that take it more seriously. Those are the ones that are gonna move forward and try to win the Stanley Cup this season.
I think it's gonna fall down to, like you said, whoever is still playing it with heart. Forget about the fans. They just want to play it, and yeah. I don't think it's fair for us because we want to see some action.
Yeah, in a perfect world, the players would just play. They go, they play through everything just like a video game. There's no emotions. There's no, any extracurricular reasonings behind anything. You just go on. You flick the game on, you play, and that's it. But there's a whole host of issues that could have happened. Like maybe some people didn't like being away from their families too long. Maybe they didn't like being confined in the situations where they were in, and basically just having to do everything together and you stay safe and stay away from everything. So there's a lot of different challenges this year that haven't happened in past years. So it's a culmination of a lot of things. And there's also the St. Louis Blues came out. The general manager, he said that part of the reasoning why their team didn't have the same success last year. This is the reigning Stanley Cup champions. It was said that they didn't have that there were a lot of players who got COVID beforehand, and they didn't really fully recover, body-wise, going into the playoffs. Well, whether that's true or not remains to be seen. But it's possible that could also be a factor in it too. Like some players, like if they did have it, they didn't fully recover from it. There's all different types of issues. But at the end of the day, the games get played, and whoever wins, whoever loses, and that's all it is.
They need to, I guess, get the energy to play, because like I said, it's been a lot of 7-game winnings, such as 1942 Toronto versus Detroit, and Toronto was on a 3-0 lead, and they just laid back like they were going to do it, and that's the same thing that's happening here, and then Detroit all of a sudden just took it. Uh, so to come back from a 3-0 lead, 3-0 lead, and to win it, it's similar that I think is going to happen here in a lot of sports because they just leaning back. They like, it's a boring year, so let's not do nothing, and then that's when the other teams will wind up winning.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you go through your whole life and you play, and a lot of times playing is all you do. So I don't know how that would play into it, but it's always possible. There's a million different reasons why some things don't happen the way they're supposed to, but the games were played, and these 8 teams that are standing right now were strong enough to get the wins, and they're moving forward. It is really weird that there weren't any seven game series.
I know that's why when you said there was no 7, I was like, what?
Yeah, especially with how a lot of these games when you follow them, a lot of them were really close. Like it wasn't like if teams were like all the teams were winning like 7-2, 8-3, like those kind of things like that. It was like there were tight matchups. It's just that's why they play the games.
Hey, yeah.
There is one request I had from William. I want to say Bocrest. I'm sorry if I said the last name wrong. But he wanted me to comment on why there were so many upsets in the NHL this season, and mainly there was the reigning Stanley Cup champions, the St. Louis Blues, who ended up losing in 6 games. There was the Stanley Cup champions from 2 years ago, the Washington Capitals, who ended up losing to the New York Islanders in 5 games in the first round. And then there was the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have always classically had a strong team, and they were the last NHL team to go back-to-back a couple years ago, winning championships, and they ended up not even making it out of the qualifying round in 4 games. I think it's just a lot of it's just the changing of the guard, and in the NHL there's always the opportunities for upsets. Last season, everybody was talking about how their brackets were busted because there were just so many upsets. I mean, who would have seen the President's Trophy winning Tampa Bay Lightning playing the 8th seeded Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Columbus Blue Jackets sweeping them, So in this playoff season, there weren't that drastic of upsets if you actually look at it pound to pound, number to numbers. I just think that it's always a possibility in the NHL for upsets to happen, and I don't feel like the Washington Capitals losing to the New York Islanders, especially when Barry Trotz, the New York Islanders coach, was the coach for Washington when they won their championship 2 years ago. That's a lot of familiarity there, so there's not exactly a big secret there. The Pittsburgh Penguins losing, that was, they just, it kind of defies logic because they have like 4 Hall of Famers on the team, and it just, they weren't the past couple of years. They just haven't really been able to get it going. And
yeah, they are to me, they like the Yankees of the they're real good. Everybody knows them, but they just been on the slump.
Yeah, just that's when you go about your business for so long, and teams get the book on you, they know how to defend it, and the one thing with playoff matchups is it's always, but playoff matchups, whether it's hockey, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, it's all about matchups. Like no matter the records, if you're football, if you're a strong run team and you're playing the number 1 rush defense, and whether they're the 6th seed, whether they're the 4th seed, at the at the end of the day, it's all about the matchup. So if your strength goes against their strength, it's just a battle of who's going to come out on top. And in the NHL, if one team is a speed team and the other team is a hard hitting team, they can slow down the speed game, and that's just what takes place. It happens all through year to year. It's more important than just the the home ice itself. It's also just the luck of the draw, and a lot of the times that's where the if you look back on what the championship teams went through and what what they had to go through compared to what other teams have had to go through. Some of the journeys are harder than others, and usually the team, the best team in the league, is also the luckiest because they went through a set of circumstances that favored their team more than somebody else who might have been better. Maybe on paper they were better, but they weren't able. They had a harder road and they had tougher matchups, and they weren't able to move forward. So we will move on to basketball right now. We have the same setup from last week. There were just a couple of series that ended up ending. So then on the Western Conference, the number one Lakers ended up they are holding a 3-1 lead on the number 8 Blazers. So last week's show, the Blazers won the first game, and then now the Lakers have won the next 3 games in not surprising fashion. To take a stranglehold on that series. And then the second-seeded Los Angeles Clippers are playing the seventh-seeded Dallas Mavericks, and the Clippers hold a 3-2 lead in that series, which could have easily been a series win at this point if it wasn't for the superstar Lucas Dujovic, I want to say. I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong. Did I say that wrong?
I guess they know. They understand.
So he ended up hitting a buzzer beater that just completely shocked the nation, and they're still going in that series. Then the last game, the Clippers scored 154 points. So I think they were just trying to close out the entire series in that one game. So, and then we have the the Denver Nuggets, the number 3 seed, are playing the 6-seeded Utah Jazz, and the Utah Jazz hold a 3-2 series lead in that one. And in the Houston Rockets, the 4th seed, are playing the 5th-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder, and that series is tied at 2.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Thunder. You know, they're on I guess a 1 losing average. When we look at the standings versus, like anybody else. Like I didn't even think the Thunder would be up there. You know?
Yeah, the Thunder are just they're just a well run operation. I mean, they ended up in successive seasons losing James Harden, and they lost Kevin Durant, and then they lost Russell Westbrook, and they're still, in the thick of things in the Western Conference, which the Western Conference is easily the hardest conference of the 2 sides of the NBA, going toe to toe nightly with teams with other big superstars, but they're making it happen.
Yeah. Well,
they're winning games.
44-28, 44 wins, 28 losses so far. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you look back, like, back when, they wasn't that good. But now it's like, whoa, could they be number 5 right now?
Yeah, 5th seed. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a team that I never looked at, but I think I might have to start looking at them.
Yeah, they don't have huge superstars on the team, and they continuously lose superstars, but they're still in contention every season. And I mean the Utah Jazz too. I mean,
the Utah Jazz is tied with wins and losses with the Thunder. So I'm not really too sure. I guess it's because of the last couple games, but both of them have 44-28, same point average. So, but I guess gameplay looks like same thing. Gameplay has been the same. Thunder wins more in home than Jazz does.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think in basketball more than any other sport, there's like I've said in past shows, there's absolutely no home court advantage. Like there's zero in these playoffs. Everybody everybody's a road team, and that there's no home crowds, there's no absolutely nothing. Like the courts are all the same, the hoops are all the same. Like there's just they got the opening tips, so it doesn't even like there's no kind of starting possession like there is in the NHL. When it comes to home teams, there's literally nothing other than just playing the games. So being a
But
home team,
I think
road team doesn't really matter.
the home court thing I think is more of a mental stuff. You know, I think it's because of the crowd that they pumped up. That's their fans. So I think that's the only thing. But to me, a court is a court. I don't know. I can be wrong.
Yeah.
But I play the same in any outdoor court. Besides knowing the rim, if it's loose or it's too hard, and that's has to do with outside, basketball courts.
Yeah, that's what everyday people have to deal with, not NBA kind of players.
But not the NBA. They all pretty much similar. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's absolutely zero home court advantage. If anything, somebody who has a better road record would be able to withstand, give different kind of distractions and things like that. But I mean, it's really marginal at this point. Really, like what you're seeing here is just who wants it more, and whose game plan is better than the other team. That's it.
Right.
There's no extracurricular, really anything else going on, other than two teams just battling against each other. So then we'll go to the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, we have the number 1 Milwaukee Bucks playing the number 8 Orlando Magic, and they are up 3-1 in the series. No shocker there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. No shocker.
Yeah,
with 56 wins, through the season, and it ain't a shocker that they will be up there.
Yeah, last week's show, Orlando ended up taking the first game, and now Milwaukee's taking the next 3 to take a stranglehold of that series. And then that is the only active series right now because the other 3 series ended in sweeps. The Toronto Raptors ended up sweeping the Brooklyn Nets 4-0, which was no surprise. That's what we predicted last week. What I thought would be a better series, or a tighter series, was the number 3 Boston Celtics versus the number 6 Philadelphia 76ers, and Boston ended up sweeping them 4-0.
Yeah. The only surprise I have in the Eastern side is the number 7 Knicks. Like, how you got to number 7?
Who, the Nets?
Yeah, that's my surprise this year. Over the Wizards. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Wizards this year didn't. I don't think they had the magic. Maybe they needed Harry Potter or something, but they did not do good at
Well, coming into the bubble play, the Nets they had a fair regular season record compared to everybody else, and they ended up fighting through. They were down like their top 4 superstars if you count Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, Spencer Dinwiddie. He ended up not even playing at all due to COVID-19. So it was challenging for them to even get to the 7th seed, like you said. But the Wizards were down. Brandon Beal didn't even. He was one of the.
Wasn't
the
it
ones
down
that,
like 2 to 3 players too? Right?
Yeah.
So
Beal was one of the ones that ended up that chose not to participate. He opted out.
So I think to me the Eastern Conference was basically the luck of the draw. You know what I'm saying? People were taking advantage. Oh wait, they lost a couple players. Let's push it.
Well, yeah. The bottom 2 records, the 7 and the 8 seed, were sub 500 teams. But that's it seems like that's the way it is every year to year when it comes to the NBA. The East always has like the weaker records to get in, and then the Western Conference this year actually the Blazers had a losing record, which was odd compared to past years. But usually the 9th or 10th seed in the West is able to, if they were in the East, they'd make the playoffs. So that's just the way it goes. I remember growing up in the '90s, the Eastern Conference was the strongest conference, and
it was.
It seems like ever since Shaq moved from the Orlando Magic over to the Los Angeles Lakers, everything went downhill from there. And the past 2 decades have been all the Western Conference.
Yeah, because the Eastern side, like I said, you got Celtics, Heat, Bulls, the Pistons. These were like names that people knew. back in the 80s and 90s, all the way. I can say all the way up to maybe 2005, maybe 2005, around there. Uh, and then Western, I guess, just started picking up, you know. But I just noticed something. I was like, wait a minute. The Raptors are number two, and then I noticed why they number two, because they picking up. They have a 4 winning streak. So
Yep, and they're the defending champions, so
yeah,
definitely
and
definitely no surprise there.
that is something to watch. But like I was talking to one of my friends, and his wife picks the teams according to their names and stuff like that. So that's why when I look at names, I laugh. Like the Raptors. Oh, whoa, it's like Jurassic Park. That's the reason why they're winning. So the Bucks, because they can just hit you hard and chase you. So, but it's gonna be a heck of a championship game. I'm telling you. Once it gets there, whoever wins.
Yep.
Whoever wins.
And the last series that we didn't speak about was the 5th seeded Miami Heat ended up sweeping the 4th seeded Indiana Pacers. And then one thing to mention is that the Toronto series and the Boston series ended up ending on Sunday, and the Heat Pacers series ended on Monday. So they've been playing, 3 and 4 days without anything. So the longer the protest goes, it kind of hinders them, I think, because they're not really seeing any game action. They're not going to see any game action for almost a week by the time they end up playing each other. If the Bucks end up just taking care of business in that last game, so that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, and they can't really start the other series because if there's some unforeseen situation where the Magic end up beating the Bucks, then the reseeding there's really these other 3 Western Conference teams waiting for the Bucks to end the series. There's nothing more for them to do at this point other than practice and do whatever else they're doing in the bubble.
Yeah, that's gonna be a interesting thing. Like, the longer they wait, are they just gonna do something about it? Like, hey, listen, just play this one game. Whoever wins, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they will have time to try to finish it off if it continues, being delayed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message has been sent. So, eventually these games are going to be played. But those 3 teams that haven't played aren't going to end up playing for like about a week by the time everything resumes again. So it'd be interesting to see how that unfolds and how that would favor maybe the Bucks since they're going to be in more rhythm. But that we won't know for a couple weeks until all the series end up getting resolved.
Yeah.
So the NBA draft lottery happened last Thursday, and the first number 1 pick went to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which they have a strong stable of young players there, so they'll add on another one. And they're also picking number 17th because of a past trade. So they're going to have 2 picks in the first 17 picks. And the second overall pick went to the Golden State Warriors. Okay. And the 3rd pick went to the Charlotte Hornets. So we spoke last week that the top 3 teams had the same 14% chance. So it was the Timberwolves.
Now, the Timberwolves took what's his Anthony, something like that.
Huh?
Timberwolves. They took what was his name? Anthony.
No, the draft hasn't happened yet. The draft will be at the end of the season. I think it's October. I want to say.
I think I read it somewhere that they're looking at Anthony Edwards or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
to take their first pick at.
Yeah, the doors open for either him or LaMelo Ball. That is, however way they end up wanting to do that. But the positioning that the teams are in, heading toward the future, is pretty good, especially for the Golden State Warriors, who really they still have a strong squad, but they just had a ravaging amount of injuries. So, you think about the situation where they're all healthy, and now they're going to add on a potential superstar with the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
They definitely should not be in the draft lottery next year.
Yeah. And shout outs to Lamelo Balls. He just got the Puma deal yesterday, I think it was, or the other day. He just got so he signed up with Puma.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I mean, when they got when the family tree is there before they even start playing, that's usually what happens. But he's gonna have to prove himself just like everybody else in the league.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, of course, he has the deal with Puma. He can be a first pick, and it doesn't get to his head.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You never really know until the games happen. So then to round out the top 5, the Chicago Bulls ended up they leaped 4 spots and they got the number 4 overall. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had one of the highest chances to get the first round pick, ended up bumping all the way down to the number 5 pick.
Wow.
And locally, the New York Knicks, who were slotted at the 6th slot to start the draft, ended up falling down to number 8. And the Brooklyn Nets are picking 19th, which was acquired from a different trade. So,
Yeah, and they are looking at B, his last name Bey, something like that. I forgot who that was, but they looking at him for the Brooklyn.
yeah,
He's a small forward, that I know.
very possible.
Yeah,
So the New York Knicks they have 2 selections in the first round due to a past trade. So they'll be picking at the 8th spot, and then they'll be picking 27th overall. And
who's that?
the New York Knicks.
Okay, let me know. Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the standings to see.
So they have 2 picks in the first round, and then they have their second overall, which is their own at 38. So
Yeah,
they're picking 3 times in the top 38 selections. Hopefully they pick some good ones.
right. And they are looking at. I just popped it up on the screen. They're looking for on their first pick when they pick on number 8, Daniel. I can't really say his last name, but he's a small forward from Israel. They're looking at him to be picked. So, and then their second pick for New York will be Devon Donson, point guard
Yeah.
from Kansas.
Yeah, every time the Knicks look at a European player, it brings bad flashbacks from from Frederick Weiss from 1999. Just not a good look. So hopefully,
Yeah.
But then Porzingis ended up being pretty solid until he wasn't anymore.
Right.
But so hopefully,
But also Chicago is looking at somebody from France. So
hopefully whoever the Knicks pick, it's gonna be a good one.
yeah.
We won't know that for quite some time. But being a Knicks fan, you you go in cautiously optimistic and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
So the Nets also so to finish out, the Nets are picking 19th, and they're also picking in the second round 55th overall. So
Oh, wow.
they don't have their original pick. These were all from past wheelings and dealings.
Yeah, so they just get
The Boston Celtics, who just amazing. They always seem to have multiple first-round picks, and this draft is going to be no different. They have the 14th selection, the
Yep.
number 26, and the number 30 selection. So that's how they stock their team. They stock their team with they get many first-round picks, and that's how they stay consistently good every season.
And then they got pretty much, I think, the good slots. Like 14, you still got enough that you want to pick from.
Yeah.
They didn't take it all, and then they have like the 47, something like that, pick.
Well, they're also 3rd overall in the East, and they have they're going to the second round of the playoffs. So, like they're already a good team. So when you get to the later first round, basically they're you either find the gems or you just find those really solid role players that are able to fill the needs on the team. You don't really need to like overextend and hope for a superstar to save the franchise like most of the other teams do in the first round. So their recipe for success is very, very strong and very good. That's why they're, like they don't have the superstars, but they have the great team players that end up leading to their success.
Yeah, and their first round picks, they are picking point guards and shooting guards.
Yeah, yeah. So the Phoenix Suns, who ended up going 8-0 in the bubble and did not make the playoffs, they ended up actually getting the 10th pick in the draft. So not all is lost on that effort. All right. So now we're going to move on to Major League Baseball. We're going to go division by division. In the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays are leading the New York Yankees by 2.5 games. The Yankees have 5 games in hand because they lost some games on the weekend. We'll get to that in a little bit. With the Blue Jays and Orioles, is somewhat striking distance. And in the Central Division, we have the Minnesota Twins, the Cleveland Indians, and I think, in my opinion, the shocker of the 2020 season, the Chicago White Sox are all in contention. The Indians and White Sox are a half game behind the Twins, and the White Sox are 19-12. I don't think very many people saw that coming outside of maybe half of Chicago, whoever, because you got the other half with the Cubs. So whichever one, the North Siders or the South Siders. I believe Chicago's the South Side. Not exactly sure, but in the Western, in the AL West, we have the Oakland Athletics with the best record in the AL, followed by the Astros with the 4.5. They're 4.5 games back of Oakland. So when you look at the total race, it's going to be 8 teams in the playoffs. So we have we have about 7 teams here. It looks like there's going to be 3 out of the AL East, 3 out of the Central, and 2 out of the AL West. But they're still, right now, we're basically at the halfway point of the 60-game season. So there's still a lot more baseball to be played.
But if it still goes on, I think we can definitely say Rays are in there and the Twins, and because everybody's. Well, I'm not gonna quote on the Central yet because they only have a point, half a point away, half a game away. So, but the other game, like the East, are 2.5 games behind. So I don't see them knocking the Rays down. So they'll be moving on.
Yeah, the locally we have the New York Yankees, who are just getting ravaged by injuries, and but those are a part of the game.
The Rays and the Yankees, I see them moving on, due to the fact that the Blue Jays are 4.5 games behind the Yankees.
Right.
And we only have a few games left to go, so I don't think they. But hey, I can be wrong,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Something can happen, and they zoom by right there,
Totally. So the 2 worst records in the American League belong.
Why got to be the worst? Why got to be the worst?
They belong to the Anaheim Angels and the Boston Red Sox. Both of them have 20-plus losses.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the Red Sox just have they just have some really bad luck this season. It's not even. Watching the Yankees Red Sox games, they're not the same as they were in past seasons. That's for sure.
Oh my God.
So in the NL East, we have the Braves are holding the top spot there, and the Marlins are 2 games back with 4 in hand, and the Phillies are 4 games back with 4 in hand. That is the one division where every team has lost or had to have rescheduled games because of COVID-19, which makes that a wacky division. And locally, the New York Mets are 4.5 games back of Atlanta with 1 game in hand. So not all is lost with the
luckily
New York Mets. Yeah.
Luckily, they 4.5 games. I don't see the Mets coming quick that fast.
4.5 games. It's basically like one team having a good week and the other team not having a good week, and you're right back in it. So, there's
what's their? Do you know what their winning streak is?
I do not.
I gotta try to see.
But
I don't think Mets have had a real good winning streak. I know they good. I'm not saying they're not good.
Yeah, I know they won 3 in a row at one point last week, but
Oh, okay.
There's still a lot of baseball left. There's still 30 games left.
Yeah.
And with all these games in hand and these wacky, like teams playing double headers, going back and forth, only playing 7-inning games, like that benefits a lot of teams depending on who has a better start to the game. There's a lot of different ways this can go. So, in the NL Central, we have the Chicago Cubs, who are 2 games ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals, but the St. Louis Cardinals have 10 games in hand. So there's a lot of doubleheaders coming in St. Louis's future. And Milwaukee's 4 games back with 2 games in hand. So, and then in the NL West, again, the best record belongs to the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have the best record in baseball at 22-9. And the San Diego Padres are 4 games back of them. And the Rockies are 6 games back. So a lot of the NL thanks to COVID-19 has gotten really wacky. So there's really, looking at the standings, you really don't know what do we know that St. Louis is a powerhouse team with 10 more games to play? Like are the Cubs so much better than them? We don't know.
Right.
Until these games end up happening and all these doubleheaders happen, are they gonna be able to withstand all the extra games, all the extra innings? We'll find out in a couple weeks.
And the most losing team is that team. I don't even know why they play, but the Pirates.
Pittsburgh Pirates, 7-19.
Wow. I didn't even know they still exist. If it wasn't for Roberto Clemente, I don't think nobody even know who the Pirates were.
Yeah, they have a really tough go of it the past couple of decades.
Yeah, they've been having their tough years.
It's a shame too because it's such a beautiful ballpark. I've only been to the outside of it, but
okay.
it's widely known as one of the top 3 stadiums in all of baseball, and they host a franchise that really hasn't won anything in like over 30 years. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, wow.
Yeah. So we were talking. We spoke about it earlier. The New York Mets were the latest COVID-19 victims. Luckily, it was only 1 player and 1 staff member that ended up being infected after about 4 days of losing games. This news came out while we were on the air last week, so we weren't able to speak about it. But they lost the series to the New York Yankees, and what's going to end up happening is this coming weekend they were due to play again. So they're going to have 5 games in Yankee Stadium. They're going to have doubleheaders on Friday, which is tomorrow, and doubleheader on Sunday, and then play 1 game on Saturday. And the original setup was 3 games at Citi Field and 3 games at Yankee Stadium. Now, within the 5 games, the first 2 games are going to be home games for the Mets, even though they're at Yankee Stadium. So they're going to have last licks and that benefit. But I think in baseball is where the home field advantage, where there still is actually a home field advantage because of the different dimensions of the field. So what a pop out and a fly out to the outfield in Citi Field can be a homer in Yankee Stadium in a lot of different areas. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And of course, we have the 7-inning games, which I absolutely hate, are going to happen on Friday and Sunday. So that we'll see what ends up happening in that situation. So the 7-inning games, I've said it almost every show. I'm not a fan of the 7-inning games. In every doubleheader, you're losing 4 innings a day, and I think in a situation where the players are really not doing anything else other than playing and traveling, I don't see why they're not playing the full games. And I think that these gimmicks are really taking away what baseball is fully.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think let's play the whole 9 innings and just maybe eliminate a couple of games.
Yeah, it's already weird that you're going from 162 games to 60 games, and now you're
cutting innings off.
Now you're playing 70, about 66, well maybe 72% of games. It's just the the NBA, it's like, if you're playing and then like 3 minutes into the fourth quarter, you end up calling the game, and then
Right.
in the NHL, it's like, just playing like 5 minutes into the third period and then calling it. It's just it's really
Yeah.
weird, and it's kind of like
Are they going to
killing
give me
baseball for me.
some money back? Because now we got a prorate. Because if I'm paying
Yeah.
for 9 innings, you got to prorate 7.
Yeah.
At least I'm supposed to get at least $10 back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy out there. It's really like, for a true baseball like enthusiast as myself, is like all these things are like, come on, like why are we even doing this? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's a lot of decision makers that are going through these processes, and then if you're worried about player safety with COVID-19 and things like that, like cutting off 2 innings, like everybody's still around each other for the first 7 innings, so there's not there's not any extra risk there. And then like there's the risk of injury, but injuries,
Right.
there's always a risk of injuries no matter what. So I don't know. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. And then in the MLB, the trade deadline is on Sunday, which makes the it's weird. It's gonna be interesting to see who feels like they're buyers and who feels like they're sellers at the exact midway point of the season for most teams. It's gonna be like who since we covered the teams, there were about 8 or 9 teams in each league that are in playoff contention, but who is going to distinguish themselves as buyers, who's going to distinguish themselves as sellers, and if there are different teams that are going to end up just trading players that they feel like they're going to lose anyway. There was one situation this week where, last year, where Didi Gregorius was in a contract year for the Yankees. The Yankees ended up keeping him, and then they ended up losing him for nothing in the offseason. Are there teams that are just going to trade them away, or are they going to try to keep them? That is the interesting developments that will happen on Sunday. All right. So that is our show for this week. Thank you very much. My name is Alfonso Caldero again, and this is LDM Radio Sports Talk. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.